thing that any brainwashing dictator, because he accused me of being brainwashed and that I was trying to brainwash him. I said to him, the worst thing that any brainwashing dictator can do is ask the people he's talking to verify his information. That's the worst thing.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Any accusation that he would come out with, I could immediately tell was a projection. Because, you know, the people that we talk to, you know, they accuse us of either preaching to them, of trying to brainwash them, trying to, you know, incorporate them into a cult or something like that. But when we step back and think about it, we think, wait a minute, they're actually projecting these things. They're actually talking about themselves. They're trying to dictate to us, and they're trying to preach to us, saying that, you know, because we stay, or at least we try and stay on the point all the time. And you know, I do this probably 95% of the time. I stay on the point at hand. I call people out and say, please, can you answer a question? Please, can you stop distracting from the point at hand? Stop making this about me. Okay, this isn't about me and who I am as a person. We're actually discussing how we can actually solve the problems in societies, and you're making this about me, because that's the thing. When they can't actually address the point at hand, they start attacking the.
You're right, and actually, just to bring that back to the sort of topic of this radio show. That is where I have found myself with certain members of my family and friends.
Yeah.
That I think, you know, I put out a post on my Facebook once with one of those imageries that just says, you know, I think like do well at school, get a good job, walk on the pavement, don't break the rules, have some kids, watch TV, get a pension, you know, die, repeat after me, I am free.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and the thing is that then basically some of my family members and friends came on there and sort of said, oh, you know, there's only two types of people who are against this system. Those who've either grown up on the, you know, the greener side of life, and they've done well out of it, and now they feel really hard done by. They've done really well out of it, so they feel guilty, or they're pissing and whining about the cards that life dealt them, you know, and pretty much insinuating that I have to fall into one of those two categories, you know, rather than getting off their arse and doing something about it to make the world better. And I said, I'll agree. Look, and they said, what's wrong with, you know, getting a wife and getting kids and settling down and having a meaningful relationship? And I was, like you said, a lot of it comes from projection, but it's very difficult if you've known certain people and you've looked up to them for a long time for their certain worldview, and then you start to see why they were mistaken, and you essentially, I suppose, whilst I'm still going to be friends with whoever comes up against me with this, at the end of it, I don't mind, you know, if someone's got a different view to me, I'll still be a friend, but you just lose that respect, because you're like, wow, they were never objective. They were never objective. They're never self-reflective at all. And you're like, I looked up to someone with just an ego, you know, just someone who's not prepared to update their opinion or anything. Because I just said on that post, I just said, I'm not saying, it just seems to me that we have a very culturally prescribed way to live our lives. Everybody seems to do it. And then they say that they're free and that they're an individual. I don't necessarily subscribe to that. I don't think people give enough thought to a lot of the decisions they sleepwalk themselves into in life. I certainly wouldn't exclude myself from that. And this is really a metaphor for A, for that, and B, you trying to lump me into one or two categories seems a little bit unfair, as you're not looking at any of the information I've actually presented. And then I said, has anybody on this post criticising me, because there was a whole lot of them criticising me, has anybody actually checked out a resource-based economy at all? Anybody looked at the documentary I put up?
Probably one of them.
No, the post went dead. Because they haven't. And that's my point, is that, look, it's like me going like out with one of my mates who's a plumber, and I want to get into a debate about the best way to plumb a house. Well, what the fuck do I know about plumbing a house? I'm a fucking drum teacher. I wouldn't even enter the conversation. Yet somehow you feel that you're qualified to enter a conversation about a resource-based economic model with someone who's done 3 years research on the topic, has spoken about it, like, you know, upteen amounts of times to various different people at various different levels. I'm not saying I know it all about it because I haven't done 70 years of research like Shark Fresco has, but by the same token, you feel that you can come in and criticize an idea without doing one iota of research into it. That fascinates me, that you're that emotionally tied to your own worldview that you won't bother to look at the alternative information. But that's essentially what we're up against. We've got to realize where it's coming from. And you know what? Yeah, so in other words, a few of my family and friends, some of them have been more warm to it than others. And some of them think I'm a complete fucking fruitcake. And to be honest, man, I've initially it hurt my feelings a little bit because, like I say, you know, you look up to some of these people at one point or another in your life and you respect them on that level. And then you realize when they do stuff like that, where you're just kind of like, how can I possibly respect you on that level? I like you on a personal level and other levels, and we can agree to disagree and all that good freedom-orientated shit, whatever that word means. You know, and that's fine. But I suppose, Adam, part of the frustration has to come down to our misgivings. You know, where are we going wrong? We're coming out with this essentially very outlandish idea, regardless of how backed up it is by evidence and physical reference and the scientific method and all that good stuff, you know, regardless of all of that and regardless of all the evidence that we can provide for it, when you piece all that evidence together and you look at what we could get to if people understand that evidence and understand the train of thought, it does seem outlandish and it does seem very far-fetched and it does seem outside of a lot of the things that people have to live with in their day-to-day lives in this system. You can't expect people to just turn around and say, oh yeah. It's like walking into a Christian convention and saying, so this ark, built by a 450-year-old man, wooden, 4,000 species of wood-eating termites, 23,000 feet up. How did that work then?
Yeah, it's that
and you expect them all to go, oh shit, we didn't think of that. Oh, what a bunch of stupid wallies. Yeah, you know, we update, you know. Humans aren't built like that, and so essentially, us being frustrated about it is another one of those loops I mentioned earlier that doesn't go anywhere. It's good for your passion drive to get your ass into gear and think, shit, we've got a lot of work to do, but it's our misgiving for being frustrated by it. I'm not frustrated by it. End of the day, man. You know, sorry to go off on a bit of a ranting tangent, but there's one of the main regrets that people have on their deathbed at the end of this life is that they wish they hadn't lived their life so much by other people's expectations and by what other people think of them. That's a very, very hard thing to do. It's even harder for me to do sometimes. But that is I think one of the keys to happiness is that people get to the end and they go, I don't really want to do half those things that I did in my life. I did them because someone expected me to do it.
Yeah, I mean, you know? It's like one of the lines from the film The Bucket List. One of Morgan Freeman's character's lines is saying about the measure of one's life. He said that I'd like to think that you measure your life by how other people measured themselves by you. So in a sense, you gauge how well you lived your life by how well and how much you touched other people's lives and improved other people's lives, you know?
Imagine that.
Yeah, and that's...
There has to be, but you know what? There has to be a certain element of what you do for yourself as well. This is an important thing I often use. You know, oh, well, human beings are just selfish, James. Here's a good tactic, Adam. Agree with everyone all the time. And then use that argument to turn it to your favour. Because you can. Because most people, when they talk, you know, people don't usually come out and say, well, I just want to smash people over the head with a crowbar every day. Old grannies, young children. And I think that's the way we're going to make the world a better place. Yeah. Most people don't say that. They'll turn around and they'll say something like, well, human beings are selfish. You just go, yep, I agree. And that's why in a resource-based economy, if you're pissed about something that you want to sort out, then you do need to work hard. You're going to need to work your arse off to get that problem sorted out through research and learning and, trying to get that problem solved within your community, setting up a technical team to deal with that issue. And once you've solved that issue for you, yeah, because fuck everyone else, you just did it for yourself, yeah? Screw everyone else. Thing is, in our system, everybody else benefited from it as well. Sorry.
So therefore, be
Go out,
selfish.
be a selfish dick. It doesn't affect us. As long as you're not smacking people over the head with ball-peen hammers, then it doesn't matter. If you want to do something to actually better your lives, the chances are it's probably going to better other people's. But in our system, the way we've got it set up in a protectionist system, a self-orientated profit motive system, is that we've got patents and we've got laws and we've got all these things these fences that you can set up around yourself so that you can still keep your massive yacht whilst there's starving people back at the bay waiting to be fed some fish from you, so to speak. So do you know what I mean? In a protectionist system, it doesn't work. But in an open source system of a resource-based economy,
It
tested
benefits
against
everyone.
the benchmark of dynamic equilibrium and strategic efficiency and strategic access and all these different things that you'd have to ensure you've got an access abundance of your goods and your resources and your services and all those sorts of things. You go out and you make something better in your life, it's going to make other people's lives better as well. Then you've got the people who are like, oh my God, this problem needs to be solved for everyone. I'll step up to the plate. Yeah? So whichever one of those people you consider yourself to be is irrelevant in a resource-based economy. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think on that note, I think I'm going to have to bring the show to a close now, Jim. But it was great having you on. We'll definitely have to continue this discussion for the next time. But just if you want to make any quick shout outs for any website addresses that you'd like people to check out.
My website is www.tzmeducation.org. That's a website that I pieced together for the movement with the understanding that it's more likely that the next generation are going to build this sort of world that they're going to live in. They're more understanding towards it through the reinforcement that we've got to do something about sustainable practices and environmental causes. And also they're not as indoctrinated as adults to understand it. And considering that this is a train of thought that will actually develop a resource-based economy, and education being one of the main principles, it seems like schools and educational facilities seem to be the best place for me to get started. So anybody that wants to come and help either by submitting articles about an educational system and an educational imperative that might lead towards a resource-based economic model, and also want to apply themselves to doing that by going into their local schools and giving talks on the subject or playing collaborative games or thought about sustainability or whatever it might be, please do go and visit the website and see how you can get involved. Be the light of changing the world isn't just some fancy phrase you can throw about in the air every now and then when you talk to your mates so that you can feel better about yourself. You actually have to put it into some sort of physical action.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more, man. But that's all the time we have for this show. So I will say thank you very much, Jim, for coming on. As for next time, I'm going to be dealing with more of your questions. So look out for those. And it's goodbye from me, and say goodbye, James.
Goodbye, James.